one of the things when we talk about, say, development or evolution, that one of the things sort of developmental theorists would say is that, well, it may be that the changeless primordial Buddha nature or original mind is itself unchanging, of course, but that human consciousness has evolved tremendously since the days of yore, say thinking about a spiral dynamics or integral developmental perspective, and we say,
right.
Well, we now have, for instance, you take a postmodern or one of your students, somebody who's, any of us, that we have much more evolved interiority. We're much more self-aware. We're much more aware of our feelings, able to speak about them. We have a much greater kind of relational awareness. We're aware of each other's interiors, and we have this kind of intimacy now that is something that's a relatively new emergent. And so there's all these.
We're aware of time and space and memory and things. We have more prefrontal activity and self-conscious than most animals, for example. That's evolution.
Yeah, right. And so all of that.
That's the 10,000 things at work.
Yeah.
The many spokes of
the
wheel, the many shining pearl-like interstices of Indra's web, as they call it in Mahayana Buddhism.
And so then the question I'm driving toward then is, so we acknowledge that development has happened in that way. So what it is to be a person now, and the experience of being a person, enlightened or unenlightened, is radically different than it used to be. So then how does that interact with the timeless, changeless, primordial realization when a person who has all these other more developed capacities has that realization and comes into that? Are they a different kind of enlightened person than, say, an enlightened person in the Buddha's day?
That's a good question, which, I would take the fifth, because whatever I say might incriminate me. But having done so, let me say the traditional Buddhist thought would be, no, the enlightened, if it's true enlightenment, let me be funny. The American Buddha would be the same as the Buddha Shakyamuni of India was if one reached that stage, because the qualities would be the same, of selflessness, of unconditional love and compassion, of open-handed generosity, and so on. The humility, the qualities would be the same, according to the Buddhist way of thinking.
But what about complexity?
Even though the means might be different, because we're more complicated or complex. The means might be different. The skillful means, the many spokes of the wheel might be more involved in order to get us there, because we also do think more and know more, and so therefore we also have intellectual obscurations that some more simple people might not have had to deal with. We also have a lot of psychological work that we do that helps us in the relative sphere, but may stand in the way of our spiritual work at certain times, as it becomes more narcissistic or solipsistic, or just healthy psychological individuation also might have its limits in terms of the short path of direct awakening. In Tibetan Buddhism, we call it intellectual obscurations. Like if you know too much about enlightenment experience, as it starts to come on, the ego and the conceptual mind might interfere and say, that's enlightenment coming on, and then you're back in ego mind instead of in original mind or Buddha nature. So I think from the point of view of knowing what needs to be known and being what one is, the total of coming home to oneself, of resting at the origin of all things, as I think Chang Tzu put it, I don't think that changes. The origin of all things that's the alpha and omega, Craig. I don't think it's a linear. It's more cyclical, like yin and yang. The center, that empty axis, never changes, though the yin and yang, the lights and the darks, and the 10,000 things seem to change. That would be my take on it. But I think it's a live discussion, and it's part of the evolution of enlightenment. It's part of refining our way-seeking heart and mind. It's a very important question. Live the questions. Keep the questions alive about that.